Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Worlds of the Future, the podcast in which we discuss and inform about different environmental science specializations. In this episode, we will be discussing common myths and misconceptions about marine biology, as well as discussing how scientists in the field go about answering these questions through experimentation. Finally, we will have the opportunity to listen to a few students majoring in other disciplines at American University and hear what they think about this field. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Amy Neely, as well as the three interviewees, for agreeing to participate in interviews where I was able to collect extensive knowledge on processes and authority in marine biology, as well as common knowledge about this field. Dr. Amy Neely was also able to provide data and processes from first-hand experience, which also helped a lot with understanding specific processes within this field. Now, let's get into marine biology experimentation processes and how information collection in the field works. First, they all begin with an individual or a group of scientists asking a question regarding a specific issue or topic. Additionally, in some cases, scientists may post questions at the end of their own studies and encourage others to answer them. These questions can range from figuring a species' role in an ecosystem to finding solutions to chemical pollution in a certain region, or simply be a continuation of someone else's work. Regardless, all these experiments require funding from either agencies, universities, or sponsors, and being able to gain this funding can be the most challenging part of an experiment. Additionally, many experiments require experts in different fields, whether it's by knowing more about a specific technology needed or being more knowledgeable in a specific field, such as chemistry. Collaboration is very important for experiments to be successful, and requests need to be made, which difficulty can vary depending on the reputability of both scientists. Finally, once all this is complete, the experiment is done. An extensive report following the scientific method is written. However, before it is published, it must go through peer review sessions in which other scholars verify the information that is going to be posted. Despite the fact that scientists try their best efforts to educate the general public about what the field entails, as well as the discoveries that have been made, there are still various myths and misconceptions some people believe to be true. For starters, there is a general belief that farm-raised fish are the sustainable alternative to commercial fishing in the wild. However, farm fishing can cause more environmental problems, according to Dr. Volse and his fellow scientists, such as the spread of diseases, weaker physiologies, and more competition with other wild fish. Another misconception is that sharks are more dangerous to humans than we are to them. The truth is, according to Dr. Nunez, sharks cause 6 to 8 human deaths per year, while humans kill 100 million sharks per year. One final misconception, which was debunked by Diver Brubaker, states that nature documentaries will typically portray scenes that are not found in nature, but what one will really find is duller, less abundant ecosystems. For example, Disney typically portrays nature ecosystems as abundant and full of life. These are some myths that people who are not as well informed on this field are more likely to believe, and it is important people know why these are false and also understand why it is important to understand the damage they cause. People may wonder why it is that there is a wide demand for scientists in this field. Firstly, they are able to debunk myths such as those mentioned previously, as well as help inform the public about what the real threats to the planet are. As the environment changes, there is a need for more people to come together and find solutions to all the problems that have been caused anthropogenically. There are many possible avenues for scientists to take when it comes to discovering new species, new solutions to existing problems, or ways certain species react to climate change or other man-made issues. However, since information on this field depends on previously existing ones, there needs to be as much data published as possible to gain new knowledge. Thanks to all the information that has been published thus far, it is evident there are some issues that pose larger threats to the ocean than others. Unfortunately, it is difficult to solve these issues completely, as in some cases we do not have the required knowledge or technology to solve certain issues. However, in other cases, solving these issues would place certain groups of people at disadvantages, so many ethical debates surround truly solving them. For example, by placing stricter and more regulations on fishing, marginalized communities which depend on cheap fish will suffer from food scarcity and will likely suffer more than wealthier people. However, fishing is one of the most damaging industries to the ocean, so as mentioned previously, regardless of who is protected, the other group will suffer as a result. While coming to discuss these issues, it is important to understand different backgrounds and interests, as those are the primary motivators for beliefs and interests in helping the environment. Some people may be more informed than others, but knowledge may vary or be more limited, and might not know as much as those who study the field in more depth. Because of this, I have decided to interview 3 fellow students, all in different fields, in order to see how they view marine biology and what they believe is more important. The following audio clips contain each interview conducted for this episode. What is your name and major?
My name is Caroline, and my major is SIS with a regional focus on Korea.
What problems do you think are most important in marine biology, and what do you think are the biggest threats to the ocean?
There's like that trash island out off the Pacific coast of California. The overfishing in the Chesapeake Bay area, particularly with the crabs in Maryland, I know was pretty bad. Microplastics, all up in there.
What do you think is the biggest controversy with commercial fishing?
I think the biggest controversy is when they fish endangered species or species that are like protected, but there's people are caught between wanting to fish for cultural reasons, and it's just it's not right to fish an endangered species. It's complicated.
What is your name and major?
Alejandra, and I'm majoring in political science and minoring in economics.
What problems do you think are most important in marine biology, and what do you think are the biggest threats to the ocean?
I know in Florida, so I'm from Florida, red tide is pretty bad, kills a lot of marine life, and isn't good for the, ecosystems there. And, overfishing is pretty bad. That and pollution, those are the things I know.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest controversy with commercial fishing?
There's a lot of waste, and they just overfish, so populations can't rebound in time.
What is your name and major?
Andrew, and I'm a finance major.
What problems do you think are most important in marine biology, and what do you think are the biggest threats to the ocean?
I would say the destruction of habitats such as the coral reef are very important for like a lot of species in the ocean and the overall ecosystem. So I'd say that is going to be the biggest problem right now.
Okay, and what do you think is the biggest controversy with commercial fishing?
I would say, whenever people fish, you're always catching, things that you don't want to, that are important for the ecosystems, such as like sharks, dolphins, those type of animals that, regulate the ecosystem. So I feel like that is a big problem with commercial fishing.
Okay, thank you. As mentioned previously, it is important to understand that people have different backgrounds and interests, and those are the primary motivators for knowledge. The interview results show that there is general knowledge that people in other fields have about marine biology and its major threats, but they might not be aware of more complex processes and issues that are not commonly discussed, especially by the media. And yes, while all the issues mentioned prove to be good answers, some are not ones that apply to the entire world or ocean. Additionally, while these issues are also important, there are others that are equally or even more threatening to the ocean. For example, various studies have pointed out that the major cause for habitat destruction and population depletion in oceans is due to climate change. One reason I believe no one mentioned climate change is because people tend to believe that this is something that only affects inland ecosystems and regions, when in reality, climate change leads to many other problems in the ocean, such as changes in water temperature, currents, and ocean acidification, which are all very damaging to marine ecosystems. In today's age, most people tend to get new information from social media. And while it does a good job in spreading messages and information quickly, there is still a lot that is not covered. Because of this, many people are aware climate change exists and it is a threat to the planet, but may not understand how and why. That is why I encourage you, the listener, to join the field if possible and do what you can to help the planet. But if not, just think more about why these issues are important and why scientists so urgently demand the rest of the world to take action in order to regulate all the damage that has been done. According to the United Nations, the ocean has the ability to produce oxygen and store 50% of carbon dioxide emissions produced from humans, as well as being very important for the regulation of temperatures globally. Therefore, the collapse of the Earth begins with the collapse of the ocean, an ecosystem many people are unaware is actually essential for the survival of the rest of the planet. Without healthy, well-populated marine ecosystems, there is no chance the rest of the world could survive. And with that, today's episode is finished. Thank you so much for tuning in on today's episode of Worlds of the Future, and we hope you tune in for next week's episode, where we will be discussing the field of geology. See you next week!